now we're getting into the algebra proper and dealing with one-step equations. And so when we talk about one-step equations, our goal is to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. So what that means is with the addition, we're going to subtract the constant from both sides. And subtraction, we're going to add the constant from both sides. So we're going to do the opposite of what the equation has in there. And the constant just means the number by itself. So looking at this first one, 3 plus p equals 8. Since this is a positive 3, it's like there's a little plus sign in front of that 3. So we're going to go ahead and do the opposite. We're going to subtract the 3. And I'm going to write a line in the middle of that equal sign, because whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other. So since I subtracted 3 from that side, I have to subtract 3 from this side. And 8 and 3, they're both numbers, so I can combine them together. So I'm going to say 8 minus 3 is 5. So that's my answer. P equals 5. So let's look at this next one. X minus 7 equals 13. So we're going to do the opposite of the sign. So the opposite of negative 7 would be positive 7. So I'm going to add 7. And if I say negative 7 plus 7, well, that's 0. And that cancels out. So I'm just left with x by itself, which is our goal. To get it by itself is our goal. So we succeeded in getting it by itself. So whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So I'm going to add that 7 here. Since 13 and 7 are numbers, I can combine them. So 13 plus 7 gives us 20. So x equals 20. So let's keep going. I'm going to draw a line by the equal sign just because it's an easier way to visualize our equation. So we have 26 equals 8 plus v. So looking at this 8, it's positive. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 8. So 8 minus 8 is 0. So I'm just left with v on this side. And then whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So 26 minus 8. When I do that, I get 18. So v equals 18. You see how this is going to go each time? We're going to do the same couple steps, just like with most of the things we've been doing with this math section, is we are following the same steps each and every time. So I'm going to draw a line here, and we have negative 16. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 16. So negative 16 plus 16 cancels, and we're left with just x. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. So plus 16. So negative 15 plus 16, you can even do that in your calculator. It will give you 1. So x equals 1. So one-step equations can be very, very simple. We just do the opposite of what that sign is. So go ahead and try these practice problems on your own. So we're going to continue doing the opposite of what the equation has in there, what the opposite sign of that constant is. So for this first one, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line at that equal sign just to separate those two sides of the equal. And we have 15 plus b. So 15, we want to get it on the other side. We move it to the other side of the equal sign by doing the opposite. So if it's positive 15, we're going to subtract 15. When we subtract, it cancels out, and we're left with b, because 15 minus 15 is just 0. And then whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So we have 23 minus 15. Well, 23 minus 15 will give us 8. So b equals 8. Same steps every time. So I'm going to start by dividing between both sides of the equals. And I have negative 7 plus m equals 8. So because this is negative 7, I'm going to add 7. which cancels out. I'm left with m. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So plus 7. 8 plus 7 is 15. So m equals 15. See, I'm trying to get that variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. So I'm going to continue. Start by separating the two sides of the equal. A plus 11, so I'm going to do the opposite and subtract 11 from both sides. So on this side, I'm left with just A, and then 20 minus 11 gives me 9, so A equals 9. And then this last one, again, doing that dividing line, negative 15, so I'm going to add 15 to both sides. So this cancels out. I'm left with V on this side. And then negative 27 plus 15 will give me negative 12. So V equals negative 12. All right, and that's the end of one-step equation.